26 months since I saw Spider-Man Far From Home, yesterday I finally got to see a new MCU movie in the cinema. In IMAX, no less. And man, what a feeling seeing that logo start playing on the big screen. Damn, it felt good to be back. Anyway, after Phase 4 has kicked off with one film and lots of shows, now we've come to an entirely new property, Shang-Chi. Did it live up to the hype? Let's talk about it. And of course, I'm going non-spoilers first, and then a bit of spoiler talk at the end, though if you don't want to know anything about this, probably just watch this review after you've seen the film. Shang-Chi was a film that I was decently excited for, though it was definitely on the lower end of my hype for upcoming Marvel films, just because I'm not as familiar with the property, and it exceeded those expectations. This movie was actually a lot of fun. I think Simu Liu is the most exciting new addition to the MCU in a while. Not only does he seem like a fun guy in real life, but he's just a very charismatic actor in a kind of understated way. He's very likable in this movie, he pulls off every range the movie asks of him, he's awesome in the action scenes, he fits into the MCU perfectly with this charisma that has a fun side to it, and also a bit of a stoic side. Aquafina, I'll be honest, based on the trailers, I thought would annoy me in this. And yeah, she does have a few moments that are a bit heavy, I'm the comic relief of this movie moments. And she's a bit over the top, like sometimes she feels like she's at the wrong energy level for a scene. But overall, I did actually find her pretty funny and likable as well. She reminded me very much of Darcy in the Thor films, where for me at least, she occasionally gets a little much, but overall is a pretty funny presence. Tony Leung Chao Wei really impressed me in this. I thought he put in a great performance that helped carry one of the film's main emotional arcs. The whole aspect of the story with the father I thought was quite well done. And everyone else is solid too. Happy to see Big Nasty back at it again. He's recovered from his devastating TKO loss. Shang-Chi's sister I found to be a bit disappointing. Not acting-wise, just character-wise. No spoilers, but when she was introduced, I thought she would be an interesting piece of the film, and she really wasn't. She feels like a very nothing character after that point, but I suppose that's just because that's not what this movie is about. Like, that wasn't meant to be a big element in the story. Strange to set her up like that then though, and not really paid off all that much beyond in a surface level way. But hey, the performance was solid. Of course, we gotta talk about the action here, and this was some impressive stuff. This was easily my favorite MCU action we've seen since Winter Soldier, if not maybe even better than that. I don't know, they're different types of action, but this delivered so much. I said in the lead up, I hope this gives us the martial arts action that we thought we'd get from Iron Fist, and it did that and then some. The hand-to-hand fighting is just so fun to watch. It's crazily over the top in that MCU way, but it still feels real. It feels like the punches are landing. It's fast-paced, but you can see everything. It's crisp and quick and exciting. Lots of great and creative uses of the environment to make it even more fun. It's smooth and looks badass. I just love the action sequences, especially earlier on in the film. I would have loved this movie as a kid so much. I think it would have been one of my favorites. Because I would see this incredible badass fighting and then pretend it was me in that bus scene fighting off bad guys. I don't know, it made me smile thinking of kids watching this and then going home and pretending they're Shang-Chi with this badass martial arts fighting, like I would do with this kind of action when I was a kid. Now the action definitely gets less interesting as the film goes on, in my opinion. It becomes much less hand-to-hand focused and more, well, you know how these superhero movies can go. Big CGI battle with flashing lights and all that, and while that isn't terrible, and it has some awesome moments, I personally found it much less compelling than the earlier action. However, I will say the way the 10 rings are used in some of the action scenes is pretty cool. Quick reminder here that if you're enjoying this video, drop a like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on Shang-Chi down below. Also, after the video, check out my podcast, The Poorly Planned Podcast. Alright, back to the vid. Something that I enjoyed about this movie was the fun, ridiculous world. Like, it was fun to be back in this MCU kind of silly fantasy world. Like, I remember it felt goofy in a fun way when Shang-Chi is just going through his normal day and then Big Nasty just shows up with his laser sword arm on a bus. It was fun to be back in a silly, fun superhero world. Kinda had a bit of a Spider-Man feel to it, I guess. It's very comic booky, kinda silly, fun. I also really enjoyed that, despite that, this movie isn't very heavily connected to the MCU. There are definitely some connections, which we'll get to, but realistically, this could just be its own fun fantasy martial arts type movie. And that to me is what made the Phase 1 MCU crossover so interesting. You build up these characters in their own adventures, and then when you cross them over, it's almost like bringing in separate movie franchises, and it's so cool to see them interact, because they've had their own standalone films. This could have been a standalone story, you know? So watching this, it was cool to start to forget it's in the MCU, and then remember and be like, oh man, it would actually be really cool to see this guy interacting with Scott Lang or Sam Wilson or whoever he'll probably meet in the future. Also, his action style interacting with the Avengers could be really awesome to see, fighting alongside them in an endgame style battle, and you just see Shang-Chi kicking ass. I can't wait because of the way this film was standalone. I like the use of color in this film, again, before the third act, where of course they make it more gray, and why do they always make it gray? It always looks worse and less compelling and more CGI and fake. I don't get why they do this. But anyway, Up until that point, the use of color was very nice. There are some spectacular visuals in here, some stuff that was truly a treat to see in IMAX. I like the music a lot, and also, as I sort of mentioned before, the movie made me laugh quite a bit. Without spoiling some of what it was, at multiple points the movie did make me laugh out loud. Yes, with it being the MCU, there are a lot of jokes, and so not all of them land, but I chuckled quite a bit throughout. It was especially fun to see an MCU movie with the crowd again, who were all laughing. It was a very enjoyable film, and a great cinema experience. Now, for some of my problems with this film. My biggest complaint would be the pacing, which is unfortunate because I could tell what they were going for, but it just didn't work as smoothly as I think they intended, and the structure and pacing of the film makes it feel a bit tedious at times and longer than it actually is. The problem is the number of flashbacks, their repetitiveness, and their placement in the film just gets almost tiresome as the film goes, because it starts to feel like we've seen the same flashback 1,000 times, and it seems to be communicating the same ideas a lot of the time. And towards the end, whenever there was a quiet moment, I would just be thinking, don't be a flashback, don't be a flashback. Oh, it's a flashback. And again, I can tell that they were trying to go for that somewhat non-linear reveal stuff as we go to make it more emotional. I just felt like it slowed the movie down, and a bit of that could have been trimmed or rearranged in the film. I also felt like there were some kind of sharp turns into intense emotional monologues about the past in this, and at one point the movie even makes fun of how overly dramatic it is, with a funny interruption of one of those expositional monologues. But other times it felt like it was a bit not self-aware, and would switch tones from lighthearted to super intense dramatic exposition really quick, which made some of those moments feel a bit goofy initially, unintentionally. And it also felt like there was quite a bit of tell, don't show in this film, a lot of expositing. I thought the story was good in general, just the delivery of some of this stuff I wasn't crazy about. I think the film could have used less flashbacks and constantly talking about and revisiting the same points and the same themes until they're hammered home. If some of that was cut, I think the movie would have had a bit more space to breathe and flow more naturally. There are a few moments that feel a bit abrupt in the edit. I don't know if something was cut, but it'll occasionally feel like a character did a 180 on how they're feeling in a situation. And also, this movie had a strange duality in a few ways, where it felt like it would switch between opposites. Sometimes it felt like this truly epic, huge-scale movie, and then occasionally it would feel a bit more like it was on a soundstage. I'm talking third act specifically. Sometimes it's gorgeous and has some interesting ways it's shot, and then some scenes are just quite flat and filmed like Ant-Man or something. Sometimes it's self-aware, and then sometimes it feels like it isn't. I don't know. The good in these duos is definitely more present than the bad. It's not like it's 50-50, but it did puzzle me occasionally that the movie sometimes did a specific thing really well, and then a couple of times would do that thing that it clearly knew how to do well in a totally different and worse way. But still, to be clear, not a huge problem where half the movie was great and half was bad. It was just a few moments throughout that I noticed that. So all in all, Shang-Chi, while flawed in its structure and pacing, is a lot of fun. It has a charismatic star, funny moments, a decently engaging plot, and some of the best hand-to-hand action scenes you'll see in a big blockbuster today. I also want to say I would rather have a movie that has some structural flaws but makes me laugh and is exciting and makes me feel stuff, than something like a Captain Marvel that does pretty much everything competently but never really makes me feel much of anything. No offense to the movie Captain Marvel, or other similarly generic MCU movies. This one has more fun and a charm to it, and its own kind of style. It does follow quite a few of the MCU tropes, but it does feel like its own thing as well. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll give Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings an 8.4 out of 10. And here's how my rating system works, and here's my new and improved MCU ranking that I forgot to put in my Black Widow review, whoops. Okay, and now let's talk spoilers real quick. Just a few things I want to touch on that I couldn't without spoiling stuff. So, 3, 2, 1, spoilers. Okay, cool. Well, the biggest one is the return I really wasn't expecting here, though I maybe should have. The return of
Trevor Slattery.
At first, I thought this was just going to be a bit of an extended joke scene for the fans, but he plays a decently substantial part in the film. I mean, not really that substantial, but more than I was expecting. And I don't know how others feel about it, but I loved it. Firstly, I love that Marvel managed to keep this under wraps, and secondly, I've always really enjoyed Ben Kingsley's performance in Iron Man 3, and I thought he was great here again. Honestly, he made me laugh the most in the film. I thought he was delightful. I can imagine some people might roll their eyes at this character showing up, but I loved it. On that big finale, as I mentioned before, but I can go more in-depth here, it was kinda cool, but did feel a bit CGI third act, like a lot of superhero movies do. And it also felt weirdly large-scale, but also small-scale, going back to that duality thing. It was a strange one, where all the CGI shots and the bigger establishing shots made it feel like this grand, epic battle, but whenever it got closer to the people, it felt more like it was filmed on a soundstage. And also, it felt like it should have this epic Lord of the Rings battle-type feel to it, but then it was just like 20 people on each side? I don't know, it was a weird one, where I felt like it switched from large scale to small scale within the very battle, like the feel of the scene. It was better than Black Panther's third act, I guess, because of the Shang-Chi stuff specifically going on in the battle, but it has a pretty similar vibe to that. And also, I wish the movie had spent more time in California or Macau, because those locations were much more interesting than this Harry Potter world to me. Like, it was visually cool and was interesting to see initially, but after that, it becomes kind of just an unrelatable place for this battle to be, I guess compared to how I felt about earlier fight scenes, where I felt like there was more stuff for the audience to grasp onto in terms of the environment. And of course, you can have that in a fantasy world. I mean, look at Lord of the Rings or Star Wars. But here, at times, it started to feel like just an empty box of a world, specifically for this final battle to take place at. I don't know. The Wong cameo was fun. I really wish they hadn't shown it in the trailer, because that would have been an even more fun moment otherwise, but hey, whatever. I also love the arc that Wong has gone through. He went from the super cartoonishly stoic guy to the fun-loving, sandwich-getting, fake cage fighting for money and the fun of it guy. And I guess he lets Abomination out of his government cell to do this with him. Sure. Abomination looked pretty good CGI-wise, looks more like the comic character. That was also a cool cameo, but again, we'd seen it in the trailer, so it didn't have as much impact as it would have otherwise. And then, finally, the post-credit scene. The last one didn't mean that much to me. Okay, his sister's leading the Ten Rings now, but again, I felt like his sister was a pretty uninteresting character after her first couple of scenes. So yeah, that's fine. Kind of Luke Cage Season 2 ending vibes. Spoilers. It'll be cool to see the Ten Rings again, I guess. And then the big one. Firstly, we get Captain Marvel and Bruce Banner cameos. It's cool to see the status of the Avengers now. They're still doing what they did after the snap, with hologram meetings and just taking care of various things in the universe. Hulk is also back to Banner form. Maybe he can switch between them now easily. In Endgame, I was under the impression that he was like permanently Smart Hulk, but maybe I'm misremembering. Also, this must take place pretty soon after Endgame, since his arm is still in a sling. Though I guess that Infinity Gauntlet did do a lot of damage. Maybe it'll take a while. In terms of what signal the rings are emitting, I have no idea. I was thinking of maybe like making a video, what does the post-credit scene mean? But then I was like, wait, I actually have no clue whatsoever. Maybe there's something from the comics that I don't know about. I can speculate, but that's all it would be, pure speculation. Could have something to do with the Eternals, or Kang, or something out in the universe we haven't seen yet. I don't know, but it's fun to have more mysteries opening up, I guess, for this next phase to eventually answer. We wrapped up pretty much all the questions and mysteries from the last phase, so now we can start planting new seeds, cinematic universe building, cool stuff. Personally, my favorite part of that scene was seeing Shang-Chi and Katie meeting the larger MCU more. Kind of like I mentioned before, it's cool to see characters interacting with other MCU characters after they've had a standalone film. And Bruce's attitude of just, welcome to the circus. Like yeah, everything he just went through, pretty standard for us. That was fun. Oh, also Wong karaoke. That was amazing. I love that Wong is just popping up in everything nowadays, growing more and more as a fan favorite with each appearance. I love that they're leaning into that people just love Wong. And I just want to say, Freddie and I were there from the beginning. Thank you very much. So, those are my thoughts on Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. What did you think of it? Let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comments. While you're at it, be sure to like this video, check out my Instagram and Twitter at BHL_Hudson, my TikTok at BHLHudson, check out this podcast that I do with a friend of mine where we talk about movies, TV shows, a bunch of nonsense. It's called The Poorly Planned Podcast, and subscribe for more videos like the one you just watched. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.